Hey everyone, and welcome back to Paperback Journeys. In the month of January, I read 6 books, and today I'd like to talk about them. What was my favorite book of the month? What was my least favorite book of the month? And just some other bookish updates. So the first book that I read of 2024 was Pet Sematary by Stephen King. Now I know what you're thinking. Last year, I read 20 Stephen King books, and so you might go, you might need a little bit of a break on Stephen King. Listen, I can quit Stephen King whenever I want, all right? I just needed one. I just needed one to take the edge off, you know? Pet Sematary centers around a family called the Creeds, and the protagonist, the lead protagonist, is Lewis, the father of the family. He's a doctor, and he's taking the family across the country to move to a small town in Maine, and what they're looking for is a kind of slowed down pace of life, a kind of idyllic sense of like a small town America. But of course, this is Stephen King, and so that idyllic life that they're looking for, things get creepy pretty fast. The house that they bought is kind of facing quite a busy road where trucks are going by quite often, and unfortunately a lot of pets get caught under the wheels of these trucks as they're going by, you know, just in this neighborhood. And around the back of their house, there's kind of like a woodland area. I don't know why I'm still holding up the book. There's kind of like a woodland area, and they go deeper into the woods and they find this creepy little area called Pet Sematary. And cemetery is spelled weird. It's clearly written in a child's handwriting. It's spelled with an S rather than with a C. And this is where all the children of the town have buried their pets. Very creepy, very atmospheric, very eerie. Soon they meet their new neighbor, Judd, and he tells them the history of Pet Sematary and also secretly explains to Lewis the powers that this little burial ground has. And the history behind it. The tagline of this book is "Sometimes dead is better." Very ominous, and I'll say this as well, one of Stephen King's better endings. The next book I read in January is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This book is absolutely massive at the moment, so I won't go too deep into what it's all about, because probably you know, if you're on BookTube or BookTalk, you probably know about this book. But just briefly, it's set in a distant future where humans have colonized Mars, and society has been separated into a color-coded caste system. It's very similar in a lot of ways to dystopian young adult fiction like The Hunger Games, for example. I think it's quite often compared to The Hunger Games. But with that in mind, I thought this was going to be aimed at a younger audience, but there were some really graphic moments that made me kind of question, wait, what is the audience for this book? I can't imagine that it is going to be like 13, 14-year-olds. I think it is for an older audience just because of the graphic content. The main character is Darrow, who works in the mines underground the surface of Mars, and he is a red, which is like the lowest color that you can be in this future society. And he is operating under the belief that he is obtaining minerals that is going to terraform Mars to make it habitable for the human race to live on. And he's really committed to doing this. He thinks that his life has this great purpose, but there's a kind of like a twist. I don't really want to give that away, even though it talks about it on the back of the book. You know, I didn't know it going into it, so this twist was like, wow, you know, it really took me by surprise. So it's difficult to talk too much about this book without giving away any spoilers. I'll say that there are some parts of this book that I didn't really care for that much. However, the ending got me excited for the next book, and I have heard that actually the books get a lot better in book 2 and 3. So actually pretty excited to read the second book in the series. Also, I'll be giving a full deep dive review into this book on my YouTube channel. So yeah, that's going to be coming up probably in the next week or so. The next book that I read in January is this really short one. Look, it's just a nice short book, Wild Spaces by S.L. Coney. This is said to be like a mixture of Robert McCammon's Boy's Life with kind of like dark undertones of H.P. Lovecraft. It's a very haunting and sensory kind of book. This book is about a young boy living with his family, his mum and dad, in the marshlands of South Carolina. And they're living this nice, tranquil life, you know, kind of a little bit separated from the rest of society, it seems, until his grandfather shows up. And he just turns everything upside down. He starts to reveal secrets about the family and who they are. And it causes a lot of tension between all of the adults in the family. Like I say, very ominous, very otherworldly, Lovecraftian horror. And also, there's a dog in it. And if you put a dog in a book, my interest is going to go up 10%. So yeah, I liked it. The next book I actually don't have a physical copy of. It's Big Beacon by Alan Partridge. This is difficult to explain to an American audience who might not necessarily be aware of who Alan Partridge is. If you're English, you definitely will at least know who he is. Alan Partridge is a fictional character who is middle class, out of touch with the working class, out of touch with the rest of society, really. He doesn't understand the youth of today or what's cool, but he still wants to be relevant, and he's just an awkward kind of a guy. The best way I can explain this to an American audience would be, imagine if Michael Scott from the US office released autobiographies periodically, just updating you on his life and how things are going and talking about the characters from the office. Oh, I see, you know, Jim and Pam today, you know, whatever. It's that kind of thing. It's very funny. It's very cringy. It's exactly the kind of humor that I enjoy. And yeah, I like this one, but I will say, even though it was really funny, it's probably my least favorite Alan Partridge book that I've read. I've read 3 so far. This is probably the least favorite. Still very funny though. The 5th book that I read in January was HeartShaped Box by Joe Hill. If you're not aware, Joe Hill is the son of Stephen King, but he's a very good writer in his own right as well. And this book is about an aging rock star. He's retired now from the music industry, and he likes to collect kind of macabre items. He's got a cannibal's cookbook. He's got a hangman's noose. He has a signed confession from the Salem witch trials. Then one day he sees a ghost for sale online, and it really captures his interest, and so he decides to purchase the ghost. What he's actually buying is a suit, but the ghost comes with the suit, right? When he receives the package, he gets a little bit more than he bargained for as the ghost starts to terrorize him and the people around him and just turns his life upside down. But maybe there's more of a connection between him and the ghost than he realized at first. I liked the characters. I thought the premise was fun, but I just didn't think it was scary in any way. And that's what I was really hoping for with this, is that I was just going to get a bit, you know, get the goosebumps and everything. But no, the goosebumps never came. The next book I read in January is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This is a very atmospheric retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's classic, The Fall of the House of Usher. I actually read The Fall of the House of Usher in October as part of my classic horror month. This story deviates slightly in that the protagonist is Alex Easton. Alex Easton is a soldier. I think in The Fall of the House of Usher, the main the narrator was an unnamed narrator. Yeah, this narrator is Alex Easton, retired soldier. They hear that their friend Madeline Usher is sick. And so Alex decides to go and visit Madeline to kind of be with her. When Alex arrives, the place is just a swamp full of fungal growths and rabbits that are acting kind of zombified. It's very eerie and mysterious. I think the writer does a great job of setting the scene. I think if you enjoy atmospheric writing, then you're probably going to enjoy this book. Also, for such a short book, there's a lot of world building in here. Alex talks about their experience as a soldier coming from a country that actually doesn't exist, fighting in a war that never happened. All completely fictionalized. Alex is also a non-binary character, and they explain that when you become a soldier in their country, you're not he or she, you are soldier. If I was to compare it directly to The Fall of the House of Usher, they start off very similar, and then towards the end they completely deviate. And I feel like this book, What Moves the Dead, has much more of a obvious ending, a more clear resolution. But I did feel as though The Fall of the House of Usher, the beauty of it was in its ambiguity. You didn't quite know all of the answers, and that, in my mind, made it a little bit more haunting. So I definitely preferred the original, but this was okay, I thought. So what is the best book that I read this month out of those? I really liked. I did like Red Rising. And again, that was a surprise to me because so many people said, just kind of get through the first book and then it starts to get good by book 2. And then by book 3, it's amazing. So I was actually encouraged that I kind of did like Red Rising. But I really do think that the best book that I read this month is, and it's not just because of the author, It really, I thought this was one of his better books. It's Pet Sematary. That was the best book that I read in the first month of 2024. Congratulations, Stephen King. The thing about this is that it's just so disturbing, and that's what you're signing up for. When you're picking up a Stephen King book, you're signing up to be a little bit traumatized, I think, and he does a good job in this one. I think actually this is maybe his most disturbing book. Is it? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. My least favorite book is probably going to be What Moves the Dead. The reason for that is that a lot of people were telling me it's actually the opposite of Red Rising. Everyone was going, "Oh, you're gonna love it. It's amazing," and all this. And so I feel like maybe I built it up a bit too much in my head, and because I liked The Fall of the House of Usher so much, I couldn't help but draw obvious comparisons between the two. And I read The Fall of the House of Usher just a couple of months ago, and so yeah, the original was too fresh in my mind, I think. And so I do feel like it wasn't bad. I'm not saying it was bad, but I'm just saying I don't think that I enjoyed it as much as most people will enjoy this book. A lot of people love this book. All right, so let's talk about channel updates. This is going to be a regular thing that I do now, is like a monthly wrap up, because this is what every other booktuber does, and I just never did it, and I don't know why. I think I was just so focused on getting to the end of The Dark Tower and just reading all of those books, like I think it was like 23 books inside of a year, and I was just so intent on that everything else, any other kind of strategy with the channel, just fell by the wayside. But now I feel like I'm going to be much more of like a traditional booktuber. Of course, I'm still going to do deep dives into books, and I'm going to do read-alongs with series and stuff like that. But I'm just going to try and be more regular with my uploads. I'm actually thinking about trying to upload 3 times a week, which, last year, I was lucky if I would upload 1 a week. So I know that's pretty ambitious as a bloke with 2 jobs, but I think I might be able to do it. I was thinking maybe I would just do like Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Something like that. We'll see. I'll try my best. I might back off of that a little bit and maybe just make it 2 a week, but that's my intent anyway. More channel updates. In the month of January, I gained 190 subscribers, which is up 25% from December. So welcome to all my new subscribers. Hello, I'm so glad that you're going to be joining me, hopefully, on some future paperback journeys. And my most popular video of last month was the Dark Tower live reaction, where I finally reached the Dark Tower and I cried like a little boy and I loved it. Other bookish updates are, I don't know if many people know this, but I'm actually a voice actor as well. And that's like my second job. And this month I have been recording the second book in a 4-part series. And it's called, the series is called The War of the 12. And The Broken Heart of Aurelium came out roughly around a couple of years ago. I've just today finished recording and finished editing the second book. It's called The Ashen Hand of Kesrin. It's written by Alex Robbins. This month in February, I'm going to record the next 2 audiobooks. So book 3 and 4, they're already written. I think they're all available in Kindle on Amazon. And yeah, they're all going to be released on audiobook. 1 is already available. So that's what I've been recording recently. I also bought a lot of books in January. It's an addiction that I have, and I think a lot of you will be able to relate to that. It's not bad as addictions go, is it? Buying books, it's all right as long as you read them, right? So if you'd like to see the books that I bought in January, you can click up here. These are books that I'm probably going to be reading and reviewing soon. So yeah, you can check that out. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and happy reading.